Well, now that we're into a full year into distance learning, the lack of socialization mixed with the overall missing the experience of actually going to school, going to events, taking part in activities like football or basketball games. How are our teens feeling? We thought we'd ask them directly. This morning for our Your Take panel, we welcome Michelle, Dino, and Emily, all looking wide awake and ready to go. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Thumbs up? Thumbs up. I like to hear that. You know, it's interesting. I know so much of your life has been centered around the Boys and Girls Club. All three of you are participants in the program. I should mention I'm a board member of the Long Beach Boys and Girls Club. And I know, so it's not just school that you guys are absent from, Emily. It's also those Boys and Girls Club activities that aren't the same as they used to be. And I imagine that after a year of doing that, you've been kind of thinking about how that feels. How does it feel to you a year in?
It can be stressful, yes, but it's also been a really big learning experience because so much change happened and we've had to adjust to so much. But there's also been really good positives as well because we've learned how to deal with some stress and how to keep up with school. And so we're getting used to it.
Well, and that's the thing that is, I love hearing that, Emily. That actually gives me a fair amount of hope. That it's nice to hear that you guys are understanding there's learning to come. I think you guys have started to learn a little bit earlier in life, perhaps, that trials teach us a lot about ourselves. And Michelle, I saw you nodding, co-signing what Emily was saying. You've learned a lot about yourself this past year?
Yeah, I learned that I cannot be in my room so much as I thought I could when I was in school. But yeah, it's learning how we have to teach ourselves basically.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, the idea of just focusing, right, Dino? It's a different kind of focus when you're by yourself in front of a computer screen than when you're in a classroom with a bunch of other students.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's very different. Having to adjust to just looking at a computer all day. It's really been different because when my eyes get very blurry.
Sure.
I've been trying to get some blue eye glasses, so I can really adjust better.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. The eye strain, what your brains are having to deal with. And I can imagine now all of you are sort of thinking, okay, people are getting vaccinated. They're going to start moving our tier around a little bit. We may be going back to in-class instruction. Raise a hand if you're excited about that. Are you excited about going back to in-room instruction? Okay, now raise a hand if you're excited but also have a little bit of anxiety about going back to in-class instruction. That's really interesting. Emily, what's the anxiety about for you?
Well, you know, the way people have been following the guidelines, because there's people that are always going to be like irresponsible about it. So it's really just anxiety about getting COVID.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, teachers are getting vaccinated and staff that work on the campus are getting vaccinated. So that's something that's less anxiety.
How about you, Dino? What is the anxiety centered around? Do you think about COVID every day?
Well, really, whenever I'm around someone that's not in my immediate family, like the family that I live with, I'm kind of anxious around them, feeling, you know, maybe what if they have COVID, or, you know, would I get in, spreading it to people that I care for? Yeah. You know, it's really just bad.
Well, especially if you have siblings at home, which I understand all of you do. I mean, you think about your generations below you and generations above you, right, Michelle? I mean, it's not just the concern for yourself going back to school. It's about the worry that you might transmit the disease to someone you love.
Yeah, for me, I have 3 younger brothers, so it's hard because, you know, they're very active, they're all young, so having them bring it is, you know, a big worry.
Yeah. And Michelle, tell me about that. You've probably seen and all of you probably have, it's one thing to see how this year has affected you. Have you noticed the change in your siblings on how not being at school and not being with their friends has affected them?
Yeah, 100%. Being so young, it's like almost that they forgot how to interact with people, and that's like a really big worry because once we go back into society, how are they going to realistically act?
Well, that's the thing. I struggle at times. Like, how do you talk to your friends, right, Emily? It almost makes you wonder if we'll forget how to socially interact with one another.
Yes, there is that too. And there's also, because I feel like having younger siblings and having to worry about their academic
Yeah.
has taken time out of my personal academic life because of Zoom and technical issues and having to log them onto websites in the middle of class. So it's affected my life as well, but their life a lot too.
Well, Dino, and I know the other two students as well are the same. You three are leaders not only in your clubs but in your homes, right? With your younger siblings, they look to you to solve problems, for advice, to handle things, and that puts a lot of added pressure on you. How do you manage that, Dino? How do you manage? Because I know you're a real positive guy. That's what people say about you all the time, that you always have a good word and always trying to encourage people. How do you manage to stay positive when you have all that extra pressure on you? You're just 14 years old.
Well, really, I do things that I can to try to calm myself down, like listen to music or just kind of trying to stay calm. Really,
Yeah.
by like when I help my brothers out, I'll help them, then I'll go listen to music and do some of my own homework or chores around the house.
Do you feel like it's made you grow up a little bit faster, Emily? Or Michelle, rather, the pandemic has maybe aged you a little bit?
I don't think so. Just because I've always had that mindset that I'm the oldest, so I have to worry more about the younger ones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the three of you are really terrific, and I just love getting to check in on you a year into the pandemic and how you're doing and how you're managing. Keep on being the leaders that you are. You're doing great. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Give yourself a pat on the back that you're doing a good job, and keep on pushing, okay? We'll check with you guys once you get back in class and see how things are going. It'll be a little more challenging because, you'll be at school at this time. We won't have the same kind of access to you, but I'll check in on you. Auntie Michaela will, don't you worry. All right, guys. Thank you again, Michelle, Emily, and Dino. We'll be right back after a short break.